round two. I noticed that the stone sound was very loud, so I'm going to turn down the stone sound from the last video, so sorry about that. Round two. So round two was Jay versus Alan, Eric Yoder versus Evan Tan, Michael has a bye, and Eric Lee versus Val, and Chiyu versus Jasper. These are the results of the overall thing, so sorry for spoilers. Thanks again to Defan for putting this together. You have Division A and Division B, and their win-loss and placement. So right now, Alan is 2-0 in Division A. Eric is 2-0 in Division B. Eric is really great. Rooting for Eric. Hope he keeps it up for today. Last video went a little long, so I'm going to try to go faster, but you know, we'll see. We'll start with Eric and Evan. Eric Yoder and Evan. Yoder is the people's champion. Evan playing, I like this move as white. Evan chose this Joseki variation. This is a double approach with a high one. Often you see people play, this is usually the AI recommended move. If cut, this is kind of just forced, but obviously black can play things like this. This is one variation. And then here, usually black has to give up the ko. But still, this should be fine, I think. I imagine something like pincer and defend or something. But again, I haven't reviewed these games much, just talking with friends, not using AI or anything. But seems a bit odd to me that Eric would voluntarily go into this variation because the P4 stone is so perfectly placed, but I did see his plan. He pincered here. This after AI pincers sort of fell out of favor a bit, but actually they're pretty good in the right case. In most of them require specific ladders and things. In this case, this pincer requires a ladder. If Evan had played this Atari, then this Atari sequence like this. I'm trying to remember. I want to say turn. Turn, correct? I think so. Haven't looked at it in a while. I think turn. Somehow it's this shape. I vaguely remember there's a variation. Maybe I made it earlier. No. There's a variation that's like this or something. Oh no, it's this way. Extend, yes. Where here, there's a ladder. If the ladder is good for white, it's good for white, but the ladder just happens to hit the D10 stone. So I imagine Eric had something like this in mind when he played this Joseki to kind of get Evan into some unfamiliar ground because of the ladder. It seemed to have worked because Evan didn't wedge, but instead played this Atari, which is not a Joseki move as far as I know. And then Eric played this one, and they traded like this, but this is good for black. There's another Joseki here, where black captures and white captures, but compared to this variation, having the extra stones here I think is better for black because these two stones have forcing moves against them, namely like the Atari that black can use. So slightly good shape for black. Eric plays here, but I think one thing to know about this left Joseki is that A and B are kind of Mii against the corner. Usually if black plays A, white should jump, because if you play elsewhere, this move is Sente-ish. Not 100%, but pretty Sente, because you have this kind of sequence, which I believe is a ko. You could check me on that, but I believe it's a ko. So usually you see like this way or this way. It's not 100% Mii, but that's what I remember studying. Yeah, so but Eric plays away. But I would have liked to play this one because on this board, since this is so strong, then having a stronger position here works well. Approach is a big place though. Eric is probably looking for some coordination with d10. White captures to prevent that option, and black plays white. This is the first big-ish mistake, I think, from Eric. When I was studying Korea, I learned that you shouldn't allow white to play this move. Not specifically this shape, but the idea is black can play this exchange in Sente, and then you could play away. But you'll notice now if white cuts, black has the option of playing this Atari to gain some value. Whereas if you play away and then here you don't have this any option to do anything here. And so it's really big to, even though this move kind of looks small because the white group's strong and the black group is strong, you're like, why is this important? When white already broke to the bottom with f2. Because you wouldn't want to play this. This is like just conceding. You're like, yeah, I'm getting the bottom, but I'm giving white more in Sente. You wouldn't want to do that, but you want to make this exchange at least because when white plays here, it has the extra value of denying that forcing move. So it is bigger than normal. Whoops. So a slight technical inaccuracy, I think. But Eric keeps going. It's not going to be game over from that. That stood out to me as a big thing. Eric plays a leading move. I also learned this move while I was in Korea. I think it's pretty cool. You coordinate out well with this. The local just like needs to play the slide here, and then black can either extend or play the slide. But Evan decided he wants Sente, so he plays this sequence. And I think in a normal game you should extend. I think blocking is a bit slow because the corner is alive. But Eric likes to invite his opponents in by making these kind of huge frameworks. So we get to see how Eric will attack and how Evan will manage the giant wall. Eric pincers, pushing the stone into strength. This is a pretty typical idea. Evan plays p18. P18 is a good probe. If the middle is in trouble, or the middle's dead, like maybe in some worlds you play here and say, hey, you can link up, but I'm going to kill the whole thing. So you're testing how black wants to answer first. Eric plays the most common answer. This kind of gives the choice back to white, but you leave O18 and R17 for white later, but you make your shape very strong. And then Evan jumps. Kind of trying to find a middle ground of reduction, maybe some combination with O18. And then I was watching a Byun Sung Gil game against Shin Jin-So lately, and he played similar kind of position, a little bit different. Like the stone was more inside, but he just attached. And that attachment is the situation where you are strong on both sides, but there's a lot of space, so you are just creating the fight. You just make the fight. I don't know if it's good here or not, because there is some other considerations with these stones. Like I think the more common idea would be like this kind of thing to separate. But of course, if you go here and you get this move, you might be looking at probably not in this order, but some combination. Like if you can get this extension, I guess. This is pretty bad for white, to be honest, but because this works, but like you would, it doesn't even work actually. You can hame, but even if it did work, black could just sack the stone and keep attacking because there's no eye. But the idea would be to make some combination. So maybe he wanted something more forceful. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, to me, this would be the more common splitting type of attack. You get to still make use of the shape here. Evan might not attach, but not clear to me what else he could do. Eric went for this cut, and then Evan decides to test what Eric wants to do first by pulling back. That's a pretty good idea. Pulling in either direction like this is kind of heavy, so testing how your opponent's going to leave. So like Evan wants to know what weaknesses are going to be there. He wants to make Eric commit. If Eric plays here, then you can just live here later. So you're going to change how you play in the center. Or if Eric does this, I guess, then you can just live and change how you play in the center. You don't have to do this right away, but you can change like some, like you can make some bigger fight here. And then because this is pretty stable, then you live here and you say, hey, this stone is an awkward thing, right? He's just testing what shape Eric wants. Eric goes for this one, which leaves the very obvious cut here. Kind of, Evan could live in the corner, but pretty painful to give this, because if you take the corner, I don't even know how you take the corner, but let's say you take the corner. Eventually, this is too big, right? That's the problem. So Evan goes for the cut, and here it's not really clear what you can do as black. I think some commentators and I were thinking that maybe the best we do is sack the stone somehow, and then maybe try to make some shape, either by pushing or extend. Seems pretty awkward, but some sort of shape. Eric goes for some crazy idea. He plays this way. If Evan extends, I don't know what his plan is. I assumed it was to connect to directly split, but it looks kind of insane. I guess Evan played this Atari earlier to say, hey, I'm not going to commit to anything yet, although this still works for white, so I don't know what the fear is. But Evan went with this order. Seems like a good order. And Eric decided, I'm not going to do that. There was a little bit of me that was like, maybe Eric is trying to make this go happen and use like this threat. But like, that's insane. So Eric eventually comes back to Q18, but you can notice now that the center is more important, white won't capture this yet. And these exchanges have really helped white to settle. Eric goes for this move. This is an Eric idea. This is a ladder breaker. Well, it's not a ladder breaker, but once he plays Q6, it's a ladder breaker. And then he Hanes, and I think Evan could even Hane back as a ladder breaker, but Evan is like, this is good enough, and I want to avoid the chaos, so he gives Eric the squeeze. You don't really want to do this, even though there's some cuts that you might be able to use. The Poniki means like they're not really ever happening, and you don't want to make a dumpling. So Evan gives it up, and Eric takes. I guess it's fine. Feels slow because he already had a Poniki. Capturing the first stone is an eye, but every extra capture is not that valuable. But I don't know. Evan just defends. There is some weakness here, like if black plays this, you're threatening to scoop out the base here a bit. Not that big a danger, but it is also just a big place to play. Limit the upper right. Also limit the strength. Eric goes for this, just some endgame, and captures the stone. And I feel like after white has broken the top and settled the right, this game has become very difficult for black. Eric breaks the side, probably thinking the territory is too big a gap, and Evan goes for the center. I'm not really sure what Evan's plan is here. I mean, obviously there's this cut. I wonder if black attaches, I was kind of thinking like maybe he just sacrifices it to get some presence on the bottom, but it feels a little bit giving up more than you needed to, because you could just move out or something, but he went for this. And Eric continues because he says, I need to get something back. He makes some sente moves and then defends. But this direction is a little awkward because you're running into your strong group. There's not really anywhere left to make points, but you're running to the strong group, and white is developing the center and living some endgame, sort of forcing, not really forcing. And then this is is this really the best end place? I was a bit shocked. I thought maybe something on the right, but I guess Evan is saying that this is not alive, so it's worth testing the shape. I'm not super sure. Eric says, if you're playing on the second line, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to gain this marginal strength and try to kill you because he's kind of behind. Evan says, you didn't answer me on the bottom, so I'm going to attack you, and you're playing near my Poniki, so I don't really care about what you're doing over there. We break the shape and squeeze. This is a good shape for black. I don't know. I feel like Evan could have just extended and it's better, but he wanted to play the tiger's mouth here, so he went with this shape. It is true that because of the puniki here, this very strong black shape is not that big a deal. And also it is dying, so yeah. We have some shenanigans here. Eric is like, are you gonna kill me? My move is Sente. And Evan's like, no. And then Eric's like, it is Sente. And Evan's like, what? How is it Sente? And he's like, because it's Ko. But it's an insane Ko. Because you spent like 2 or 3 moves to make this Ko, and then even then, it's like not great. Eric makes a threat. It's not really a threat because this corner is alive. If you block this here, and then there's Miai. Like this. It's just alive. But something kind of funny happens. Eric cuts the Poniki off because he's like, I'm gonna kill the Poniki now. Some crazy ideas. And then he plays this move, which apparently I did check this part with AI, and I was like, why doesn't Evan just capture at P1? There's nothing scary here, I think. Yeah, I don't know. It was kind of weird, but then so instead of just living, it became a Ko. Some Eric Yoder magic. Yeah, life and death difference, maybe? I don't know, but it was strange. But the problem is that Evan just needs anything, so Ko is good enough. Maybe he just decided, even though it's Ko, it's like he can simplify the game. Kind of strange. There's some vague threats being made in the middle, but eventually Evan just plays an endgame move and dies, and then plays another endgame move, and it's just like, bro, it's over. Just let me finish the game. He captures the scoop, and yeah, I don't know. He just kind of like took some small. They're not small. He just took some endgame moves and was like, it's fine if I die. I'm still winning. Which he's right. Eric is. I again, I appreciate everything about my friends. They're always pushing for more. There's a really cool-ish thing that happens in a moment where Evan plays this endgame, and you're like, well, I should just connect and then defend is like normal, but it's painful that it's sort of Sente. You could play elsewhere, but there's nothing else happening. But Eric's like, nah, I'm gonna play this way to squeeze every last point in Sente, because here are the Atari Sente. However, to play this way, and Eric read this, I'm sure, to play this way, you have to recognize. If you play this one, you still have to play this cut. It's the same, so you save a threat by doing this. But you have to recognize that your group in the middle is not alive. So you have to play Ko, or if you don't play Ko, you have to make. I think this is alive. I could be embarrassing myself, but you have to make like a Gote life like this, and this is way worse than just defending. So Eric is determined that he will fight the Ko to settle his group. I don't really understand. And Evan, I don't know. Eric's been playing too much Pokemon. He's trying to use confusion, I guess. Evan decides, I'm not getting embroiled in this thing, so I'm gonna just end the Ko and your life by winning the race. So we trade. And then Eric cuts at N6 because he's like, technically he can mess up and this isn't alive. So it's kind of desperate, and I mean, it is desperate. And after a couple moves, and Eric resigns. Pretty unfortunate game for Eric. I think he had a very good chance, depending on how this top fight went. I think he just got a bit too creative, as is what typically happens to him. Is he just gets very creative sometimes, and sometimes the creativity is a bit awkward. All right, next game. This is Val and Eric Lee. I'm rooting for Eric Lee. I think he's in this group, has a good chance. Very standard opening. Val is playing the same opening we saw her play last time. This time Eric doesn't cut and make the same fight, which would have been funny, but he instead defends the corner. And I guess Val, maybe now that I saw the first game, at the time I was like, why is she extending here? This is totally weird direction because you're extending towards a very strong group. So there's not much value here. And your white clearly has the first move to break the side. So it's a bit awkward. But having seen the last game with Jasper, she might be worried about 016 happening again. I'm a little bit... So I've played Jasper fairly frequently. He likes to go for this 016 trick. I've studied it with AI. It's not actually good for white, so you shouldn't prevent it. But I can definitely get not wanting to play into someone's prep, and like a fight that someone knows is pretty hard to handle, but it's I don't know. I feel like this move is maybe not great. I think she could have also just like not played the press and been fine, but she wanted to play the press, or she could have changed it to a low approach. I don't know. It's a little strange. She goes for this trading variation. I don't really understand why Eric didn't just take the thing. I guess he thought that maybe the right side formation is a little bit weird, but it's fine. He also could have played for the co variation. I don't think Val has enough co threats yet, so it feels a little early for her to go for this. Actually, it's a little strange. Usually, you play this move when there's like a direct threat, like a peep or something, to squeeze a bit more efficiency out of, the trade. But she went for it right away. It's a little odd. But then Eric went for the very defensive move. Usually don't see this because it makes A and B BI. So like if black plays here and white defends, then this move is Sente, because if you do something, then you can't block, which means the corner dies. But here you wouldn't really want to push necessarily. You could, but it's, again, not interesting because of this. So Eric probably is just happy to make a life. He likes just living. But it's a little bit odd to have this variation. And then Val plays here. I think my personal opinion is this is not a good move when there's a stone at d10. Or any stone on the side usually, because the variation that they get with this ladder is good for white. Like this stone is kind of, you'd rather it just be a capture really with the spacing, or like up here or something, but it's just awkwardly placed. So I'm a little bit unsure why she went for that. And then she plays this one, which is not understanding the Joseki in my opinion, because usually you play this when this is like some big ladder breaker. And the idea is that by playing here, if white goes to break the ladder, you have time to do this stuff or something. I don't remember. Like, if you have the stone here and white, eventually you have this sequence in Sente. And then in this sequence, this move is Sente, right? Which means that by having F5, if you run the ladder out, you can you can Hane and capture Sente, and then the stone here is, you can net it. That's basically the story. But the more I've seen this Joseki in pro games, the less often that really happens. But here the ladder is like so tightly contained, it seems a little bit slow to play this to me, but that might just be me. Eric jumps out, which is okay. I guess there's not really much going on the board. Also feels slow, but he probably, if he plays another move, he probably doesn't want Val to play this exchange, but honestly, it's still Gote and fine, but a little bit pressed down. And maybe it is a little hard to figure out what to do next, like you have to do something here, so still fine. This exchange, though, makes no sense to me. I guess she really wanted to prevent the ladder thing, even though there's a stone here, but if you think about it just in terms of who gets more, G4 is a really big defense, where capturing the 2 stones relieves your liberties, but it's you're always settled here with E10. Like if you were to worry this, like you play somewhere else and then here, You don't need to do anything. You can play away again because this cut you can just still capture, and if white connects, then the 2 stones are not that important. You can still defend it, but if you play away, it's still not a perfect like shape. So seems a little bit too slow. This is always something, and then this happens, and then she passes. The game feels really awkward. I imagine AI says it's probably only slightly favorable for white. White +3, yeah. But for me, this would be a very difficult game to play because it's not clear what I can play for as black. Like, I can play this, or maybe some extension, but there's not a lot to play for. She goes for tries to do something active with the center, but it's a bit odd because there's no stone at R13. Usually, in this sequence, black would play here, and then white would defend. The reason for the defense is if there's a stone at R13, then this Atari you can't really run out, and if black extends, this group is not alive because of the pincer. So this pulling back move would be Sente if there's a stone here, and then you can develop your space. But it's a little bit odd because there's no stone here, so she has to try to do more. Inserting by pushing, but inserting a cut is good technique before defending, because then she should probably capture, but this is she wants to build the bottom side, so it's a bit awkward. She does develop the bottom side. This seems far to me. I would be a bit more conservative because the bottom left is very strong, but maybe she's feeling like she's pressured and behind, although not that far behind, but so she wants to invite a fight. This peep is testing how black answers. Black never wants to connect, but depending on how black answers, you have different forcing moves. Val answers this way. This is an option. I'm not sure what the best option is. That's rather hard for me to see, but we can see that this leaves some connection issues, but I don't know if there's a better move, to be honest. So it's hard to say. After playing out here, though, the shape is very awkward for black. You want to play this, but because of the P12 stone, just getting cut is terrible. I think in old books, I saw that this is the move, because if you turn then here, and if you push, then you extend, and going through is okay. But it's very hard to come up with this, and I'm not completely convinced this is correct either, but that is a shape I've seen. In the game, she goes for this one, which is also a move, very standard, but it leaves the kick. You don't really want to stand up because then the wedge is a danger, so it doesn't work right now, but you could imagine like even just push is annoying because now this turn is threatening to capture 2, and then you get Atari'd, and white's just breaking through. You can cut maybe, but even giving them up is fine, right? And continuing something. Or I didn't read it, but there's a danger of the other cut. Anything like that is an issue. There's also, maybe you have time to defend this way. That way, if you can cut here. I don't know. It's kind of dangerous. So she pushes to try to fix it, but the Hane still keeps her in a shortage of liberties. Bamboo is kind of the only shape you can Hane, but after connect, it doesn't. You're still kind of in a awkward situation. In the game, she bamboos, Eric connects. Not sure what his plan is exactly if Val cuts, but it seems tough. And then he plays here. This feels like a strong move, but it's a little thin, unclear what's happening. And then Val decides, I'm not going to fight this. This seems unclear, but I want to make a giant. I'm going to instead move the field to the bottom. It's often a good plan when you're not sure what to do. The shape is kind of suspicious, though. My first thought was, if white plays here, I guess you have to push. Because you want to cut, but if you cut, then this cut means you have to cut like this or like this, but your shapes are going to be awkward. And if you're cutting like this and the ladder's good, then that means moves like this are going to be annoying, which means the leading moves against this corner start to be relevant. mean by that is like, imagine you have to defend and here. Then if I had made some exchanges earlier to defend the corner or something, I could go here, you can push down. But if I had made some probing move, then this kind of thing is quite dangerous. And so the little shape thing here starts to like bleed over. Eric went for a different idea. Eric says, I'm going to pressure this, right? Go this way, make you run out this way, and then naturally fix the connection here and swallow these. That's kind of the idea of this move, which seems pretty natural. Val counterattacks though because it's thin. Oops. And at this point, I thought that I checked this part with AI too. But I also thought maybe just trading is good enough, and it seems like AI generally agrees that that would be fine. You have to add another move. If you don't, then this is captured. So then white swallows the top. You could probably kill this thing, and I think this would be bigger than this. Not bigger, but maybe bigger, close enough. But white also has two other corners, so. But Eric decided instead to live inside and manage the top part independently, which is also a good strategy if you're confident in your reading. This shape just invites the peep. And then after the turn, to exploit the cut, Eric cuts. Ladder is not working, so I have to extend. Push, and I'm a little bit surprised. I guess I didn't read this, but I guess if black extends or something, you're going to press here, and then it might be a rather difficult position. Maybe just extend is good enough, I'm not sure. But in the game, Val says, okay, I want to up the pressure on this part. And Eric says, you can have him, it's fine. You have to defend the net, and then he comes down. So very simple, just chopped off. This was black space, and black cashed it. White got it, but got the middle and a little bit here in exchange. Trade is good for white, for sure. When black pushes, white comes back. I was worried about like what happens if you extend or Hane. You can't really do anything, so he just comes back. This move gives white enough liberties to then kill the group here. Which is what happens, and at which point Val resigns. I feel like Val might be a little tilted from her first game. I thought she played the first game decently, but she might be a little tilted. I know also Eric and Val have played many matches with each other, so I imagine there might be some like friendly psychological warfare stuff going on, just based on like matchup. But I feel like Eric got the kind of game he likes, where he takes points and like manages all the things and was happy. So yeah, moving on. Jasper versus Chiu. I'm going to come back to this game. This game's insane. Okay, we'll do this game. Alan and Jay. I really like watching Alan because it's very clean. Alan is just, he's the favorite. But yeah, Chiu and Jasper, I don't really know. So this game is a bit strange, but Jasper goes for the invasion. He's trying to do something, I don't know. And then he plays this attachment. He always plays this in this kind of formation. I don't know why, but he likes it. He told me once that for some reason on Fox, if you play this, a lot of people play here, and then you just gain an advantage by making this exchange. But I kind of can't believe people would fall for that. But okay. And then I guess you get this extension of white answers here, but white can play pincery moves too, and it's a fight, which I guess is what Jasper likes. So it's fine too. This reverts to a large knight enclosure invasion, since white got to come back. It's the shape and then invade. And instead of Hane, it's extend and then push bump. Also a Joseki, totally fine. And black encloses. Pretty normal. We have this variation again. White plays a slightly tighter shape because the stone is already very high here, so it's more balanced. I was wondering how to handle this. I looked at this with AI before, and it said either shoulder hit or here is more reasonable. Maybe something like this. But in the game, Jasper just invades, so it's it is true that it is quite large, and I assume you know, this is the vital point of this shape. So, or a vital point. So, yeah, white defends the cut. He moves out. If you go here, he's very happy to trade. So it's going to be this. I don't know. I don't like this move because blocking is very painful to me, but it's true that h3 is not in the perfect place, so maybe it's fine. I don't know how you're supposed to really answer this, but it seems a bit awkward. Jasper pushes to make white shape poor and then leans to get out. If you cut right now, you're just gonna, like, he just gets out, which is fine. So white separates that, and then he goes down, and he's like, I'm inviting you to cut, which to you does. Extend is good technique. It has the best impact on the left while also threatening a ladder. I don't know about this one. This one might be a bad exchange, but it's okay. He plays his probe. We defend the probe. Cuts, ruining white's shape, but it's going to be a race, basically, with the stones on the left. And, yeah. So, how many liberties does black have? Black has 4, but really it's 5 in a second because of this move. White has 5. This move means that if white plays here, then black can tiger, which means you can no longer play k2 without first approaching at l2. So you actually have 5 liberties, and white also has 5. So then black wins the race. However, I didn't read far enough when I was watching. I didn't see that white can play this this Atari. This Atari is very clever. If you can't cut, and if you connect, you're losing the race. So the Atari actually means if you extend, then after the cut, you are... Oh, wait. Actually, I don't know. Maybe it's still the same. Oh no, you're short 1 now. Yeah, you're short 1 because you have to play b6. So that means here black has to play this one and make a ko. I thought maybe here black should ignore. Usually white should exchange r2 for s2 earlier. The reason is what white really wants to do is play s4 as a co-threat. That's the big co-threat. But if you play it here, then later black can play this one and make another ko. Or sometimes if you can get a little bit extra, sometimes make a life. But it's generally like you can make at least a ko. But I haven't checked it with AI, but I thought maybe white should have made that exchange earlier somewhere. But in the game, Jasper just answers. I'm not sure if it's worth it, because if white plays here, you can make another ko. And if white just turns, then you're not getting as much. So I thought maybe it's a bit lucky that black answered, but I haven't checked if it's really good enough. We make some co-threats. Oh, that push is big, but it also makes a problem. And then black played this co-threat, which is interesting. I'm not sure what's going on. But white tries to surround. And then black lives. I think I read in the chat there was some comment saying you can just push at n8, but I don't really know what's happening. I guess you have to save this. And then there's a ladder. You can make this exchange and then this, but the problem is... Well, I don't know, there's a lot of problems. It's not clean to me, but this extend is Sente, so maybe something like this, and you can't really do anything here. The problem is that this extend threatens a ladder. Yeah, so you'd have to defend, and then there's this, I guess. It's hard to figure out a move here. Very direct read, but I'm not sure exactly what they had in mind in the chat, but that seems like a thing. But Jasper just chose to live because after white goes down, it's very clear to capture. You could capture like this too, but if you have this shape, then the push, you can get one push, but then the other push is a gote. So he might want to keep the tension on the middle. And then after this, black defends, white peeps, threatening to save, and white peeps, Let me fix the shape and go out. And white, I don't know, makes some movement. It seems strange, some sort of coordination. I would assume something like this or something might be more normal, but he's vaguely doing something. Black just takes the side, defends the cut, pushes the short the liberties, and then attaches to settle, try to fix the shape. Here black cuts, and to me this is crazy. I thought it was fine just to answer. AI says black is half point. Okay, so it's close. But this fight, I mean, he separates the group, so it's what he wants. But he realized at the last minute he can't actually keep going because I don't actually know why, but I guess the cut in the center is not working. And he can't live here, maybe? I'm not sure. It's a little strange. Or he just thinks it's dead anyway, maybe? Okay, he decided to make it a ko. I'm not entirely sure why he doesn't just answer. Maybe the corner has a squeeze, but it seems pretty long. I'm not sure. But he decides to go for this ko. This is his ko threat, to cut. I don't like it, but okay. I mean, it's big. It kind of reverts to another Joseki, like there's a variation of the 3-3, so 4-4, 3-3, push, and this shape, but then cut, extend, and then Hane, Tiger, connect, and then extend. This is also a Joseki, so it's actually just reverting to a Joseki, but it happens to be a case where black has stones on the outside. But it doesn't seem like very big to me. He's going to go for this attack, and cuts, which does work. But white is attacking this. Yeah, and make some exchanges. And so white is like kind of saying they're gonna get everything. I feel like black should be fine. Yeah, I think black should live and be fine, but there's a cut in the center happening, and then this one, yeah. So if you play like a move like this, then the danger is whatever happens here. I think you're just short. You have 3 liberties for white and 4 from each side, so so instead white goes first to have the extra liberty at an 18, and then here black can Atari out or live, so white defends and black lives. As a result, white got the top side. I feel like this should be better for white. Yeah, so white caught up a few points, but still close. Oh my gosh, what? So we push, we threaten the 3, and then we save this group. And then we follow up here. Hard, I'm not good enough at in-game. I feel like this is kind of big, no? 2.8, 0.5, 1.6. Yeah, I don't know. I also don't really trust the AI on OGS because it's very low playout for estimation, but white breaks the center and sente. Not sente, but breaks the center. That's going to get squeezed. We have some endgame. I know the result is that Chiyu won by half a point, so that suggests to me that somewhere Moshwan or Jasper lost some endgame somewhere. But I am not good enough for taking the time to find that. Yeah, so they played out the endgame, and Chiyu won by half a point, which is very close. I know that he likes to win by close margins. Alright, last game for the second round, Jay versus Allen. 3 space pincer, interesting. And this is the case where N2 is good because you have the pincer stone. You want to deny the pushing moves from white. defensive shape. I don't know. I've seen this in some games. I don't know. Jump is normal to aim at the breaking the space, and peep is pretty normal. I don't know. I feel like you have to connect this, but Jay played here, and this seems can't be right because after this, white's shape is so good. White is very thick. This cut or the clamp, you have problems. So, a bit strange. Alan takes the points. And then Jay approaches and Alan says, okay, I'm going to just break up all this stuff and say you don't have anything. Alan goes for this variation where he's pushing because if black extends again, he wants to attack or like settle the left side in some active way. So Jay knows that, so he comes back. But to me, this stone is very hard to attack. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. I kind of feel like maybe something like this would have been better. And then obviously Alan would play more active, but if he plays passive, maybe pincering this could be a plan. I don't know. This just felt a little bit committal when the attack is not clear. They just play everything and white lives in Sente. White will get something later because this is kind of thin. Unless black wants to make some bad exchanges. White approaches. This is kind of nice. You approach with your strength behind you to develop your potential. Black pincers to contest it, but I don't really like it because you're getting closer to a strong group. Normally this kind of position you want to somehow reduce or limit the space rather than directly invading, but I think you're short on territory and it's hard to develop the center because of this group, so maybe just fight. Alan is trying to get some outside strength because he doesn't really want to take the points. He just, in fact, he's like happy to push black towards the strong group. Yeah, not sure why you don't Hane as black, but and then Jay goes for this idea of clamp and cut to take more points. And man, Alan is so good. If you're thinking about this normally this shape is what comes to mind to handle it. But Alan says, hey, you could also consider this variation with turning and then do the double Hane. But the thing is, this turn actually loses a liberty, so Alan just plays it directly. And it's, you can imagine if he turned, this would be exchanged for this, but this is a better exchange for white because you didn't lose a liberty on N18. This happens. This cut is unexplainable. I can't believe he cut here. It's you just tiger. The reason is like this group is alive and the space here is not that big, so you would rather in the future, like after everything resolves, you rather cut here to do something in the center. Like this one, white never cares if you take this, and you already spent the move at K17, so it's over concentrated. So it's strange to me he would cut here, but I don't know. White pushes and cuts. I was a little surprised by this. I didn't realize that this just works, but it's very cool. And black comes back. I don't know what else Jay can do here. Maybe you Atari, but it feels so bad. And then Alan goes down. I think a lot of players would be like, why don't I Atari and go down? But you have to kind of understand what's happening. So if, in the game Jay defends, which is good, but if black had gone here, white can just go down. And then you need to move somewhere, but you kind of can only play this. And then clamp is really annoying. If you play S17, you're dead. So you have to play here. But then that means every move is Sente. So then white is going to have no trouble at all, just living on the side. So of course after this, then black should play here, and then Alan still extends to gain liberties on the stone, and then jumps. That means that I think I would play here, but this is fine. The idea is that you are preserving the option of playing P15. You're gaining more value than just the Atari at Q14. Jay's worried about, so if Jay defends this somehow, well this is not good because what'll go up, but if you defend it somehow, then there's this clamp that will cut your group. Or maybe the Peep, because if you claim maybe black will trade, I guess, still sketchy, but Peep is also annoying. Still can trade though, so I'm not 100% sure what the fear is. I think the trade should be good for black, so I don't know, maybe he's worried about something though. So he defends, and then Alan plays this move, which is so annoying. You don't want to play this, because now your shape is very awkward after you like tiger and then later eventually block. Your shape is, you're going to be losing liberties with this push, this exchange somewhere. But you don't want to play this, and in the game Jay plays here, which is like your normal counter-attacking instinct, but it just falls straight into a driving to Suji and then a squeeze. And then Alan's so good. This move is so good. Basically, you have to play S19. If you do anything else, you're in trouble with the corner. But then that means that this move is Sente, because if you do something else, you can make an exchange. But if you do something else, then Atari, you can't connect, and like you die if you do something, or Ko. No, just dead. So it's like, it makes T16 Sente, which means it's +2 points in endgame for free. So after Jay answers, he connects, because the group here is not alive, so Jay has to live. Normally the feeling should be block, but when you have this Joseki with the 2 stones here, you can just go down, because that covers the cut here. Jay blocks to live, and then Alan is so annoying. Maybe there's a world where playing O19 you get this big squeeze, and you don't want to make the Ko at R19, so black has to answer. Very annoying. Doesn't really do too much, but it's annoying. And then he comes back to fix the shape. You have to defend this move. I don't think this really does anything, but if you get this exchange, then sometimes you'll play here, or like take, and then you can get this move as an exchange to get a couple, like a fraction of a point more. But yeah, I'm not sure about that one. That one's a little odd. But then he comes back and plays this, which is Sente, because otherwise O19 will kill this group. And then he nets. And the net is not Sente, but every move afterward will be Sente. Jay plays S3, which is very big, defends your group, and not a lot to do, but the white center is just massive. Alan really showing how like the little technical things all just add up into like a huge advantage. Black is thin here, so white does this. If you Atari, because it's a ladder, right? It's a ladder. White will go through and cut off this group near the huge strength. You can see how, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but you can see how this exchange is actually helping white a little bit. Not a big deal, but a little. Jay defends the connection, but that allows Alan to get some points. If you defend like this, it's fine, but it's still a cut and it's Gote. Instead, Jay takes the stone here, saying I'm gonna try to take back some points while indirectly defending my group. But that allows Alan to cut through. You want to Hane, but it's risky, because this jump is a shape, but this shape is usually not a very good shape, because you have so it's like here, let's say takes. This move is very annoying to defend. You don't have a great answer. Maybe here, but then this one is still annoying, and then here it's like everything is annoying. So that's why in the game, Alan is trying to, I don't know why Alan doesn't play it right away. Maybe there's some option to trade like this. So he's kind of like threatening it. Jay plays this turn to try to get Sente, to then come and defend this point. At which point then Alan attacks this group. I don't know. I guess this is the shape. I'm not really sure what the right shape is, to be honest. If you extend, I'm wondering if he's just gonna like cut. Because it does work, and it is a ladder breaker kind of thing, but it's a bit odd because the shape is a bit strange. Maybe you could do this, right? That's... yeah, I don't know exactly how he came up with this point, but it's an attack. does contest the head. Jay goes to make a base, but then when this happens, I think he realizes that actually, if this happens, the 3 stones are short on liberties. And if he goes here, then he has to deal with maybe some sort of thing. I'm not sure. Maybe just this. I don't know. Something like this might be not alive. That looks alive. I'm not entirely sure. But Jay says he doesn't want to block. So this happens, and then he goes to make a life here to take the points so he could live, but it would be very painful and White would get a lot. So instead he tries to deny the connection underneath, and he's kind of saying he's going to like somehow in some world he'll be able to like come around and race it or something. I don't know. That's what this is meaning. In the game he plays here, trying to do some shenanigans, but White just says, oh, I'll just live, and if you connect, then I will finish off the game, probably, somehow. Instead, Jay's like, okay, you're right, I'm not connecting, so I'm doing this, and I'm running, and Alan's saying it's good enough for him to come through, just defend the group. And then this is an interesting question. This is a cool idea. So he's kind of testing how White wants to answer. If White connects, he's looking for this cut, because this is technically a ko, and no one wants to play the squeeze because there's a cut here and a cut here and a cut here. So Alan recognizes that. He avoids being heavy by just extending while also putting pressure. Jay is trying to make something happen by creating weaknesses and cutting, but the problem is that after this, if he continues, then K4 is actually a ladder breaker. So it's a bit awkward. He has to come back to defend. It does have the value of having J3 later, but when Alan defends, the center is like kind of awkward. And at this point, I started realizing what Jay is trying to do, which is a little insane, but funny in his style. Although all these moves are forcing, I think he was trying to dream of capturing the giant dragon. He attaches on this side because cutting is too small. Makes some exchanges. And then plays here, and it's like, oh, well, technically it's not alive, I guess, but a bit ambitious. He plays this move. I was a little bit shocked. So this move is Sente, and then Alan defends this way. Just securing and maybe aiming at the J11 peep. But Jay pushes here, which is losing his own liberty. I guess technically what he's saying is if White had played here, there's an I, whereas when he makes this exchange, there's only half an I here. White can make an I or Black can take it away, but I don't know. Peep, yep, coming in to connect. Jay counterattack saying I'm not going to let you through. Wedge to try to make something happen, but then resigns because it's kind of impossible to capture this group. I mean, Alan is the favorite. I think Alan played extremely well. I think Jay got to an awkward kind of game. He likes to attack, but Alan didn't give him a chance to attack, unfortunately. And Alan just squeezed the value out of the position very nicely. Okay, those are the 4 games for round 2. These are the results. Thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you all later. Take care.